Go. All right.
I don't want that person near me.
There was a guy I said earlier on, we weren't welcome.
It was fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
We forced that. We forced that.
If we can't bring him back, who do we call?
In layman's terms, I can hear and see. Sometimes both together, sometimes I can see, sometimes I can hear. The other side.
When Paul talks about the paranormal realm, he often compares it to the Star Wars universe and how alike it is. In his own words, it's the Force and Spirit working as one, hand in hand.
The Force to me is the realms of spirit on the other side. That is the Force. We all call it the God Project. I think the God is the whole energy that we create. Hence the Force. Okay. If you looked into the movies, there was one character in one of the early films said to the Darth Vader character, "If you strike me down now, I'll become more powerful than you can possibly imagine."
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
And then in the later movies, they came back in spirit form, surrounded by this Force energy, which projected them that way. Even when they were in the spacecraft, then with that famous saying, "Use the Force, Luke." Someone speaking to him.
Use the Force, Luke.
It's a good descriptor of what sometimes you try to get across to people. With me, people say, how do you hear these people? And I always say the same thing to them. Imagine you're in a cafe and you're going along like with your tray or wherever, and it's pretty full, right? And you're moving along, and the noise in the background, you will always hear someone louder above the chatter than anybody else. They're the ones who punch through. I don't care. You did not have permission to touch me or anybody else here. Do you understand this, John?
It was fascinating, absolutely fascinating, because he didn't used to do it at home then, and it all started when he got into Ghost Haunted, and so when we started doing the investigations and everything, it was all fascinating to me because I hadn't experienced it before.
I had this lady who kept appearing to me and helping me build what I now know as a turret. I could never get the turret to work or build correctly, and she was very friendly. I'm actually seeing it. I'm actually seeing this. It's a case of telling me that things that people being here and someone's actually had someone's sorry, slow that down. They're actually throwing things. They're throwing things at this person from in here. It's exhilarating to me. As I said, I quoted to you in a conversation previously that it's always a pleasure, never a chore. I like saying that. At times you do go to locations, and it's not always of a nice nature.
All we had there was a guy I said earlier on, we weren't welcome. But not in a nasty way. We forced that. We forced that.
You're asking your guides to assist in stopping certain characters, punching them through, or they're coming through with a bad vibe or a bad attitude. Or it's just a straight feeling of, I don't want that person near me. Or on location, sometimes that bad person, there's always a bad person when I go to locations. It's very rare you're going to go to a Disney World.
That would be nice.
It would be nice. And that bad person is sometimes too much.
Paul, you alright, Paul? Back up from here, Paul.
Get me out
Paul out.
Come on. Oh, my legs are gone.
He's trying with me. He's trying with me. Come on, but I'm strong. He's not. No way.
They put these conditions on you, and sometimes it gets a bit unbearable.
The first time I ever saw Paul have a minor possession, as we like to call it, was quite scary and exciting all at the same time. It was scary because I've never seen Paul like that before. One minute he's talking to me and the next he was snuggled down in his coat, which is unusual for him. And then when asked a question, he replied in a voice that wasn't his, in a way that he doesn't speak.
I've always been prepared to go the extra mile on that. Sometimes there's people around me panic and bring me back sometimes, but understandable, I think. In reality, I think I would do that same thing.
Paul, come back to me. Listen to my voice. Push him out. Push him out. You don't need to walk with Paul. That's his job.
It doesn't ever scare me, and he's had some really evil spirits have entered him, and I've known that they've been looking at me through Paul's eyes. But it's never actually frightened me. It's fascinated me, if you know what I'm saying. It's knowing that I'm speaking to somebody from the other side, and it's the only way I've ever actually been able to speak to somebody is through Paul.
Paul has an uncanny ability to know where we're going before we go there. The only information we ever give him is that it's within a certain time frame of his house, say half an hour, and the date he has to be there. The best time I can remember him doing this was we were going to a place called Manhattan's. We'd only given him that information, and he had come and had to speak to me, and he just kept telling me Fitzgerald's, and it meant nothing at the time. When I spoke to the researcher, I found out that that was the previous name for Manhattan's. There was no way he could have known that.
The most fascinating thing to me, and I know he keeps saying that he's going to stop doing it, is when he knows where he's going to go before anybody tells him. And I think the first time it ever happened was with the previous ghost haunted group. They told him it was in the northeast. This investigation was going to be in the northeast, and he was in the bath at the time. And I mean, they didn't say whether it was north of where we were, south of where, it was just in the northeast. And he come out with it and he said, right, that's it, it's the Dog and Gun at, is it Northallerton or somewhere like that? And that's where we're going, and one of the rooms he's got a piano in, and he gave me the names of the landlord and landlady, and I phoned Sue. She said, how does he know? We haven't told him anything. And he did the same with Kaylee. Now that fascinates me, and I get excited by that, and I have to, Paul just said this, and he's saying, but he seems to think that it'll spoil it, and he says he's going to stop doing it, but that totally gets me excited.
One of the team's favourite places to go is the North East Aircraft Museum in Sunderland.
It's got to be, without doubt, it's the past, it's the history of the place. I mean, it was there for such a long time during a difficult period. The ups and the downs, and the way people got on with life. They made their own entertainment, they made this, they made that. It was just a different way of living. It's a different way, it's a living that, would I want to live through it? Not in them times, no, but you've got to give respect to them people that did. And their characters were so loud because they had that courage. Had to have that courage. That keeps drawing me back there, because the place itself, it tends to change, and it changes a lot when they change the place around. They move things a lot. As I've said to Keith many times, I wish you could just drag all this out of here and let's just walk across the area, because it's the area it's creating this. Apart from one or two exhibits where, unfortunate things have happened to pilots, with one or two of them, and such forth. The majority of it is what it was as an airbase.
I'd like Paul to get a really, really good reading of somebody.
To bring enough energy to a location to cause a manifestation so that the rest of the team can see it for themselves.
I'd like a good medium to sit down and say, right, somebody's come through for you, you know, and for him to go, wow, for him to be, whoa, you know, rather than taking it in his stride sort of thing, for him to get excited about it.
That would definitely be the icing on the cake.